on this. I'm going to go to this computer. Hi guys, this is Donna MacDonell. We're starting a series of Zoom calls that we will be posting to YouTube. I'm the treasurer of the MHE Coalition and also send out the packages and have a few other duties within the coalition. But today I'm so excited because Matthew Gregg, whom I've known for a couple of years now, is joining us and joining us to talk about some issues. And he's going to start out by talking about his journey with MHE. So I'm going to turn it over to Matthew now.
All right. Well, hi, everybody. So my journey is actually, my youngest is the one who right now has been diagnosed with MHE, and his name is Brandon. And I would say, we were just talking about this last night, it was about 2016. He was in 3rd grade, talking about having some pain. He had pain before, even as a kid, very restless, didn't really understand why. And then I would say about 3rd grade, we finally went to the doctor and said, there's got to be something wrong here. He's starting to kind of carry his arm, starting to hurt. He was talking about it, and he was favoring his other arm a little bit. And so we went to the doctor to get it looked at, our pediatrician, and the pediatrician said, oh no, it can't be this MHE. My wife's dad's side of the family, who we didn't know as well, and hadn't seen in years. We knew of this disease called MHE because her uncle had it, and we haven't seen him in years, but it just kind of started to kind of click in my wife's, Brenda's, brain, and she talked to her mom, and so we contacted her aunt, who said this is what it is. So we went to the pediatrician, and the pediatrician said, oh, that's too rare, that's not. He says, I almost guarantee I wish I'd have bet him his car, because it was a beautiful car. And he went and did an x-ray and came back and said, sure enough, we've got an appointment set with you for Children's Mercy. And he went down to Children's Mercy. Dr. Jarkup, who was a phenomenal surgeon and just wonderful with the kids. Brandon was in 3rd grade at the time, and ended up having his first surgery. And so since then, notices some things he just isn't able to do. Some days he can, some days he can't. We really try to, as a parent, it's very hard to not want to say, are you okay? Are you okay? All the time. But I know that that's not what he wants to hear, you know, and of course he's just like, I'll tell you when. And so we still go out and hike as much as we can and do stuff. But there's a certain level, there's a certain amount of time that he can't, and we don't get frustrated with it or anything now. It's just, okay, we do what we can do, and we're grateful for the time off, and then we just work on pain management any way we can. And in my job, I'm a vocational counselor with the state of Missouri, and so I look at helping people with disabilities finding accommodations for work all the time. And so probably drives my son crazy, but that's one of the things that we a lot of always say. And what can we do to make this easier for you or better? And so Donna and her family, huge blessings to us as a family, and really brought us into this group and things that's happening.
Okay, thanks, Matthew. We made up a bunch of questions. Now, I'll warn you all, whenever Matthew and I start talking, we never know what direction. Whenever Matthew and I start talking, we never know what direction we may end up in. So I just to warn you, we may get off track. It just happens. So
you have a drink and some popcorn back and relax.
Yeah. Amy, my daughter, who has MHE, my husband had MHE, I do not, but Amy, our daughter, does. She also added to my list of questions. So we'll try to hit some of what she wanted to cover too. Um, Amy's really concerned, Matthew, and you can speak to this because you've got a child in school with MHE. She's really, really concerned about how it's affecting the kids with MHE. Well, all kids, but especially kids with MHE, with not being able to be in school, having to sit for hours in front of the computer because sitting is difficult. What's been your experience with that?
Um, we always try to, and this is just maybe just kind of my personal um, view on stuff, as I try to say, like, what are the blessings in this, or how can we turn this into, lemonade if life gives you lemons, right? So um, I kind of think that in some way it's been a blessing, at least on, although our schools have been phenomenal to accommodate. If Brandon needs to get up and walk around, he can. If he needs to get up and go to the bathroom and get a drink, just to stretch out, he can. If he can't participate in something physical, they don't dock points. He just doesn't do it. Um, he has a certain his special chair or whatever. He has a cushion that he uses and stuff. But being at home, he's able to be in his own environment. He's able to stand when he wants to stand. Um, the the school that we are in, they have Chromebooks for each kid. I mean, you would have had to lift weights when I was his age to even carry a computer, but now he can, carry it in one hand and walk across the room. So, he's able to sit on the couch if he wants to sit on the couch to where it's more comfortable, or he can go in his room and set it up on his computer. But so it's really been a blessing for us. I also think that the COVID environment that we found ourselves in with the disease and everything now going around, is that it's forced schools and all of us right into work at home situations, or if those of us who've been blessed and lucky enough to do that, and the schools kind of had to. So now if he has a day where he can't get to school, if he's in pain or if he's got to have surgery or whatever, he already knows how to look up all the stuff online. They use
Mm-hmm.
Google Classroom, or they use Canvas, different programs. He can video Skype into class. Um, so it really is just about advocacy with school districts and getting involved. And so it's kind of been a blessing for us. But I can see where it would be very, very hard if it was a situation where school might maybe have more accommodations there than they would at home. But I would say just find whatever accommodations you can, and spin it as, hey, you're at home. What makes it most comfortable for you here? And then let's figure out how to make it work.
Yeah. Well, the reason Amy brought that up is Amy's daughter, Eloise, who has not been genetically tested for MHE, but we've already found a lump. So anyway, she's in early preschool because she's got a speech delay. And Amy's found it just very, very hard with a preschooler trying to do anything like watching the computer and all that. It's been like a zoo. Um, Amy, luckily, Amy's not going to tell me that this is lucky, but I think it's lucky, has been asked to be on one of the boards at school for resources. So, of course, the first thing that she brought up yesterday is, well, what does this school have as resources for disabled kids? And they kind of went, well, that's something we really like to look at. So, Amy and I are going to have a Zoom discussion
Yep.
about that. Hopefully, in the next day or two, we'll put that on YouTube. But that's why she wanted me to ask you, because she's having a horrible time. Ellie's going to school 2 days and then doing NTI 2 days. So with a preschooler, a 3-year-old at that, it's quite interesting. So
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, he's in 6th grade, but I do know there are a lot of parents who, you know, at that age, you have to have somebody has to be home with them and doing it as well. And, you know, we're lucky that we can work, but I'm able to work at home a couple days a week. And so if Brandon has questions, he can come over and ask. And Brenda's the same way. But um, I think you made a good point when you talk about the schools and, you know, asking them about resources, and they're, oh, well, I don't, you know, what a great opportunity that, you know, our kids' biggest advocates are going to be us.
Mhm.
Um, and, you know, there are different approaches to advocacy. You know, I've seen it all. You know, I used to legislative committee, and you know, I've been to the state capitol on days when there were groups who were marching, and for whatever purpose they had, and sometimes they were chaining themselves to the steps of the White House, or the courthouse, or the state building. And I think, well, it's going to be hard to get the governor to come out and talk to you, you know, at that point. So
Right.
sometimes it's just, I tell the district, it's not that they don't want to, it's about how do you find those heartstrings and say, hey, we know that you care, or you wouldn't be an educator.
Right. Right.
Make
Exactly.
your job easier.
Yeah.
When they see us as supports, we are able to get more supports, I think, for our children.
Right. Um, and Amy, one of her things, and she's calling it tools in her toolbox. She's trying to think of what would be good tools to put in her toolbox. And I told her that was a really good idea to come up with with tools to go in the toolbox. Um, but I haven't figured out what tools we need to put yet. Okay, Matthew, can you hear me?
Oh, did I lose you for a second?
Yeah, yeah, I think I had some unstable. It's storming here. Well, it's not storming right at the moment, but it's been storming. So, you know, Kentucky, everything's
Yeah.
berserk. I don't know. Did you hear me say about Amy wanting tools for a toolbox? It's the way she's putting it. Do you have
Yeah.
any
Well,
ideas?
um, tools for the toolbox, you know, I think there are, you know, when I look at vocational stuff, a lot of it you can use educationally as well. There's a website out there called askjan.org. It's askjan.org. That has been a really good website. Um, it talks about all kinds of different resources for the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Another great resource is, you know, depending on the age of your child, but you can talk with, if they are high school age and above, you can talk to the Department of Elementary. Well, here it's the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, some the Department of Labor, but reach out to your vocational rehab services. Sometimes it's called, I think in Kansas, it's called um, um, rehab services, social and rehabilitative services. It's
mm-hmm.
the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation in the state of Missouri. But
Same
rehab
in
service
Kentucky, yeah.
is it? So RSA is the federal umbrella. So if you need to, you could go out to Rehab Service Agency or RSA online and find your state's contact information.
Mm-hmm.
At least for the United States, that's what we use. And um, there's all kinds of different resources out there. You know, it's so individualized, and I like to think, you know, my toolbox is kind of MacGyver-ish. You know, it's for those of
Mm-hmm.
us who remember who MacGyver is, because every accommodation might need to be different. You know, Brandon is looking
Right.
to play the chip now, and so we are finding something new where I don't have anything that's made that he can rest his arm on, so that when he's playing, he can, you know, play the fret on the neck differently. And so you know, it kind of comes up at different times. There's different things, and so um, I always think of it as kind of an individual thing. I would love to brainstorm with anyone, um, but the jan.org is good for job accommodations. but should also work for educational accommodations. And then looking at the IDEA, which is the Individual Disabilities Education Act, also is important. And then just contacting, the head of your school districts. They all usually have a support person for special education. Or just finding a teacher. It doesn't even have to be your child's teacher. If you
Right.
find a teacher that you know that is, they all are connected, right? So they should be able to work together. And you might say, hey, I can't get a hold of so-and-so, or do you have any ideas? Sometimes having the backing of another teacher can also help reach your teacher as well. So if you
Right.
have time, join the PTA, join the Parents and Teachers Association. We serve on the PTA boards with our kids' schools,
Right.
and we're at least once a month we're meeting with the administrators and things as well. And so they know that we're not just, we do care about our children, of course, primarily, but we care about all those children, and that really does make a difference too.
Yeah. I'd like to say that being on a board or being on the PTA or even being a room parent gives you an in that, because they put more of a face to the parents that are there than the parents that aren't there. And I realize not all parents can do all things, but if you can get in there and even do a little bit, I think it helps. I know it helped when Amy was in school because I was into anything that they would let me get involved in. I was there so that they had my face in front of them if they, were trying to not do the right things. So, but I think that's a
And
good
sometimes,
idea. Huh? Go ahead.
I was going to say, and sometimes I think that, you know, as you said, sometimes like I don't have the extra time, or my hours, I work a second shift or a third shift, or I don't have the time in the evenings to do that. I've got other
Mhm.
children to take care of as well, or family members I'm taking care of, whatever the situation. Sometimes even just calling the school administrator or the school counselor
Mhm.
and saying, look, my schedule doesn't allow me to do all these extra things, but I want you to know that I'm a concerned parent. I'm a parent who cares. I'm not looking to call anyone out on anything if I don't
Mhm.
have to. I just really want to be a resource to you because I know that your heart's in the right place. And if you can reach that, one of the things we say here is, meet your client or meet the person where they are.
Mhm.
So don't
Mhm.
make them
Mhm.
come to you. You go to them and meet them where they are, and try to find where their heartstrings are, where their passions are, and connect with your administrators, your teachers. Let them know that not there. That call will mean the world to them.
Right. And we have some resources on the website. New website will be going up in the next, hopefully, day or so. I've been on the phone with the new website people today, and there's two things missing, and I can't seem to get it in the right place. But we've got a lot of education resources on there, and we have a long form and a short form to go to teachers just to say this is what to expect out of an MHE kid. And a lot of people have found that really useful. So I'm hoping, once we get the new website up, it'll feel like it's more available to everybody. I don't know whether it actually will be because I'm quite frustrated right now about it, but that's a whole nother story. Let's see. You've already gone over some resources available for persons with disabilities, so I'll skip that. Um, and also the older kids or the young adults, even the ones that are going into college or going into the workforce or going into trade school. I mean, obviously, an MHE, not all, but a person that has moderate MHE, there's some things that they cannot do. There's also some things they should look at whenever they're looking at colleges. Like in the state of Kentucky, Amy couldn't look at any college where she's going to have to climb a mountain every day. It just wasn't going to happen. So, do you have any tips for our young adults and those coming along?
Yeah, I think you made a really good point. if you're looking at college or trade school, kind of what kind of school it is, the environment, um, everyone has a um, different needs. Some people it might be more lower extremities and mobility issues. Some it might be more pain and difficulty with fine motor skills or upper body. So you know, that really does play a part into it as well. Um, and so with schools, you know, I think really important to get in touch with the like a disability services office or an accommodation office, something like that on each campus, and just say, what kind of accommodations do you offer? Here's some of the things that I might struggle with.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I always make sure that, you know, that they know that you've got some accommodation needs, things that may need to be done for class, or, you know, there may be days, hey, I might, like I said earlier with Brandon, there may be days where you're like, look, I'm in so much pain. The weather's changed. Like here, it's just cloudy and gloomy right now. It looks like Seattle outside. Um, you know, and I'm in a lot of pain. The moisture and the weather change is really making me ache. So maybe you need to be able to say, hey, I can't make it to class today, but I don't want to be called absent, you know, during the day. What can I do to make that happen?
Mm-hmm.
And then some teachers are going to be easier to work with than others. Um,
Right. Yeah.
when it comes to going straight to work, I just had this question come up actually before this call. I was talking to someone who said, what do I do if an employer asks about, because they were off for a little bit of time. And so I said, well, you don't have to go into all the details. You know, they don't need to know that. Really, legally, they can only ask you, can you do the job with or without reasonable accommodations?
Mm-hmm.
But I
Mm-hmm.
think that if you don't offer them anything, they think, oh, okay, what is this person hiding? Because we're human, right? They're gonna think
Right.
those things, whether you should think about those things or not. So it's just saying, hey, you know, if they're saying, okay, so you work from this time to this time here about it, just say, well, you know, and I had to have a procedure done to take care of, you know, whatever, and I'm feeling much better now, and it's rectified the issue, and so I'm able to do the job, you know, with or without reasonable accommodations, depending on, you know, what that might entail.
Mm-hmm.
And if they say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, what kind of accommodations might you need? I always say it's always individualized. And say, well, it just would depend on each job duty. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
what those job duties you're going to be applying for are. So you can say, well, you know, I don't foresee there being any needs, or, you know, this one I see that you have to stand all the time. Um, you know, it might be that there are times that I'm not able to stand all the time, but I don't want to miss work. Is there a way that I could sit for a period of time if I needed to, or have mats
Mm-hmm.
on? Really work with your doctors. Your doctors can be supportive of that. They can write notes for accommodation needs if you need them to. Um, Information, human resources agencies or departments are able to say, okay, well, this makes it official. You know, it's not just this person asking. They
Right.
really do have something
Right.
that's going on. So um, 9 times out of 10, employers aren't looking to judge anyone. They are just they don't know how to not ask, but they want to make sure that they don't insult anybody or upset anybody. And so um, I think that sometimes just being upfront without being too upfront is the way to. Again, individual questions, you can always email me, text me, call me. You know, I'd be more
Mm-hmm.
than happy to answer any kind of questions anyone has. I don't always have the right answers, but if I don't, I can get the answer for you or find some resources to direct people to.
Yeah, I mean, you've been such a great resource. If I've had questions or something's come up, Matthew, I mean, I've not hesitated to ask you. Somebody comes to me with something and I'm like, ooh, I don't know that, you know. I've always greatly appreciated all of your assistance with that. And I mean,
Yeah.
you always are a wealth of information to be able to, from, you know, to direct people with disabilities. and
Yeah.
individualizing
It's
each person.
it's so important for, I think it's easy, especially when we were first diagnosed. Brandon was first diagnosed, to feel alone. I mean, they say it's an ultra rare disease, and then you're like, oh my gosh, this ultra rare disease, and who do I talk to about this? Well, then I find out, well, I probably know more people with MHE now than I do that don't, because we're all in this together.
Right.
I actually was working, I work with high school students as well, and was at a high school, and I had a teacher come up to me and was asking me about their daughter, and said, well, you probably don't know this, but my daughter's got this disease called MHE. And I said, oh, you mean multiple hereditary ectosis? And he's, you know what that is? And I said, well, actually, yeah, I do. It's up the road.
Yeah.
To me.
You're you're kind of in a hotbed there in Missouri. I keep finding more and more people that are, I should get out a map from Missouri so I can put everybody on it, because, and the same thing's starting to happen in Kentucky. I did not realize there were so many people that are like an hour's drive from me. And I'll be sending them a package and they're like, well, you're just down the road. And I'm like, well, yeah, I am. So, what other, can you think of any other resource? I want to move to another subject, but I want to stay on this one till we're finished. Can you think of any other resources that you can suggest, or do you think we've kind of covered all of them?
Only one other thing that I was thinking that just kind of popped into my head is, I've been kind of blessed that I have also gotten to know the owner of a DMHE or a DME company here in town, a durable medical equipment company.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, even if you don't think, well, my child or myself, I don't need that issue right now, I don't have anything that I would need that for right now, I think it's always best to just kind of make contact with them ahead of time, and say, look, I don't, stuff do you guys have? If there's ever a need, my child might need something down the road, or I might need something down the road. Just having those resources, because I don't know about you, but I like to be, I don't like surprises. I'm okay, off the cuff, but when it comes to my kids or it comes to health, things like that, I don't want to be surprised. And sometimes doctors don't know
Right,
everything.
right.
Sometimes, let's be honest, and as a nurse, you might be able to say this, no offense to any doctors out there, but I can do it without my nurses.
Mm-hmm.
Times
I gotcha.
to come prepared and come educated. Yeah.
Yeah, I, I, I
But
know.
my doctor appreciates that. So thank you, Doug.
Yeah, I agree with you. They're great. I love them, but geez, sometimes you just want to say, get your head out of the sky. You're not God. Listen to me. But okay, that's a great suggestion too. And the other thing to remember about DMEs, if the insurance won't pay for them, you ought to look at some thrift stores. I have gotten more good stuff out of thrift stores than anywhere else. Walkers, three-legged canes, wheelchairs, all kinds of crap. Has to be fitted, but if the person is going to PT or OT, it can be fitted to them. It's great. I mean, I had a friend that needed a walker and I couldn't find ours. Still don't know who's got it, but I went to a thrift store and got one for $2. It was in great shape. Perfect. But always remember that. And here in Kentucky, the hospice has a thrift store, and they have all kinds of DMEs. It's in a whole warehouse by itself. They've got so many. So, hospital beds, anything you want. So I've just been real impressed by that. So don't ever feel like if you think you're going to need something and you see it at a thrift store, and it's $2, you may want to go ahead and buy it. But okay, what I want to move on to is your rocks. I am so excited about the rocks.
Yeah, they rock, no pun intended. So
I'm so excited to be going to get some of them to go in the bumpy bone packages. Plus, I feel like a rock and a bumpy bone. I don't know. I'm just kind of getting that vibe that it, works real well. So anyway, I'm excited about that. But when we were talking about them yesterday, it also brought up another area that you know a lot about, and I feel like we can talk a little bit about, and that's activities for feel good activities or activities to increase mobility. And of course, as a nurse, I'm really into that too, because sometimes I can't just push pills. I have to come up with something else that'll work. So I wanted to ask you if you had any suggestions, for good activities and things like that.
yeah, in my other life, for my undergrad degree, I actually was in recreational therapy. So I was a nationally board certified recreation therapist, and I love recreation because we always used to call it spelled the same way. It's actually recreation.
Mhm.
How we recreate ourselves, or um, things have changed, so we need to create new ways to do things. The rock thing kind of came. It just kind of happened. We started. I don't know but you. I guess I think it's a normal thing. But to collect rocks as a kid,
Oh,
or
we
just,
do
oh, that's
too.
so cool. Look at a shiny rock over there. Look, that rock looks different. And so, um, sometimes mobility can be hard. Walking on uneven surfaces can be hard. But we found, I work with the Missouri Department of Conservation and talk with our agent up here and say, hey, what are some creeks that are accessible, or what kind of recreation areas are accessible? And we started kind of going out, and I got on Facebook and just found some amazing groups. There's a group called Rock Swap. There's an amateur tumbler worldwide tumbling group, things like that. And so been to California, we've been some places, and we always pick up a couple rocks. Well, who knew that underneath that crust and that old kind of dull looking rocks sometimes are these most amazing, beautiful things.
Mm.
So we started doing that, and then we thought, now what are we going to do with all these? We've got these rocks, and now they're just sitting around. And so Brandon was talking about, he's always liked kind of that sensation of feeling something kind of smooth, and I always like the design, and I kind of like that feeling of something in my hand, or doing something, because I kind of fidget a lot.
Mhm.
Um, and so I asked him, I said, you ever heard of worry stones? And he hadn't really heard of it. And so we started talking about it, and I said, a lot of times they're made with this concave thing in it, if they're man-made, because not every rock naturally comes out like that. And so I put something out to these groups and said, does anyone have any rocks like that they'd want to donate? And I'm wondering about starting something like this. What do you think? Do you think people would want to do that? And within the last month, I've gotten over 100 rocks from 4 or 5 different states, some from Canada. People send, because they said the same thing. We've got all these polished rocks, and my husband or my wife or whoever really don't want them laying around the house anymore, or we don't know what to do with it. This has become a hobby that we enjoy. So we created something called worry stones for the number 4 worried kids. And you can go on Facebook and find it. It's just worry stones for worried kids. And just like it and follow it. We just started it this weekend, and we've got about 55, and it's just, we're getting donations, and then we are looking for children's organizations. We've talked to Shriners Hospital, Rico, and then are going to donate some of these rocks to give children or adults. It's good just for anxiety, for relief, for stress, but it also, something with your hand or whatever, it's something to kind of help keep that mobility and working your fine motor skills, or something to Brandon. We got to find the right kind of rock, but like stone, like heating the stones up and using it as like kind of a massage and kind of rubbing it over the muscles or things like that as well. But then it wasn't just about that. It was about going out in nature. And, if you, because if you never go anywhere, then it's just stiffen up from getting out as a family and going into little creeks. Found a rattlesnake the other day, which was not what we were looking for, but
No.
it's been great. Family and an activity, it takes your mind off the pain and takes your mind off the worrying of your child, and you just go as long as you can. And so we're looking for donations for rocks and things like that. If people have rough ones, we can tumble them ourselves, or if people have tumbled to children's organizations that help children for that. So that's something we use for recreation. But if that isn't your thing, I mean, there's all kinds of other activities. Find your passion, the thing that you've maybe always wanted to do, and just try it.
I agree, and I can't wait to go down to my creek and find things for you. I may send you some of the ones that we picked up through the years, because everywhere we go, we bring home rocks. We've got rocks from everywhere. So
I wanted to bring an extra suitcase for my 40th birthday. My wife surprised me and blessed me with a trip to San Diego. So the family went, and I said, well, let's bring an extra suitcase for rocks, because you can't go to the beach. We're in Missouri, so thing has happened. She wouldn't let me,
oh,
but
Brenda.
I didn't want to pay the extra luggage fee, so we just brought a couple bags of them.
Well, that's good.
And now they're sitting in the garage, and I'm saying, I think it's time for me to start tumbling these now. So, yeah, we'll take them from anywhere, because the designs are wonderful. There's another lesson that you can tell your kids about it too, is that, when you pick these rocks up from the outside, it just kind of looks like a dull stone sometimes, right? And it's rough around the edge or whatever. But, when we put them through a tumbler, it goes through different stages, right? It goes through different grits, what they call it, and it kind of down and it polishes it up. And so at the end process, you can get these beautiful stones with intricate designs and shapes and swirls and stuff inside the rock that you would have never known. And so sometimes we think about, well, this disease, why did I get this? What am I, I'm different than everybody else. Yeah, but you know what? The one thing is that you are learning to, if you're being tumbled, you're being, washed around or whatever, but inside is there's this beauty inside of us, and that find that people unless we've gone through some of that ourselves. And so take this as maybe an opportunity or a blessing to work with others and to help others. And that's kind of what we've tried to take from that, and find the beauty inside instead of just looking at the outer shell.
Right. It's so true. I think it's like I love geodes, and I have a lot of geodes. It's like geodes don't look very nice on the outside, but you give them one whack and they crack open, and look at what you find. So,
if they're teenage rocks, it takes a little longer to get them to show everything inside, but
yeah.
We actually scheduled a trip here in a couple of weeks. We're going to go over to Keokuk, Iowa, and go geode hunting, because the kids found that they really love that, and so we're going to go do that in a little bit. So
yeah, that is just so much fun. Well, do you have anything else you can think of? I think we've done pretty good for you and I.
I can.
On track.
I was gonna say, we wrapped it up in an hour, but
Yeah.
yeah, you know, I do want. Sometimes it's, you know, I seem like I get off track and I think, oh, I hope I answered everything, and I don't think we'll ever be able to cover everything in an hour. But I want people to, you know, put my information out there, reach out to me on Facebook, or
Mhm.
wherever, and connect with me. And like I said, if I don't know the answer, I'd love to direct people to. But I encourage people to become active, um, really get involved with the MHE coalition, because this coalition has given me as a parent, um, more hope, and it made me feel like I can better help my child, because I'm not alone in it, and I don't, you know, because you always feel like
Mhm.
you're not doing the right thing by your child. Sometimes you're like, oh, what if that was the
Right,
right thing? And
right.
sometimes it's just good to be able to talk to the parents, and to talk like Amy has been just a wonderful blessing, you know, and be able to talk to her and say, hey, you know, you look from becoming what we want to become. It just means that we have to go to a different route to get there. And
Right, right.
I'm more than happy to be part of that map and help guide people around the detours that we run into.
Yeah. Amy wanted the three of us to do a Zoom call. Um, I think she's got some more questions. She gave me part of them, but I told her, I said, I'm sure Matthew always loves to talk to you, Amy. So I
Absolutely.
told I told him we told her that we'd do a Zoom call with her too, because she brings in a whole different um, perspective from her background as a minister and with a degree in marriage and family therapy. She brings in different things. So I told her she and I are going to do a call here in the next day or so. And then she wanted me to schedule one with you in the next, whenever you have time. So we will do
Yeah,
that.
sign me up.
All right, Matthew. Thank you so much. And I'm going to be putting this on YouTube. We've got several people, especially the little fella over in Nigeria that just loves watching YouTube. So I told him I'd try to get something up for him. So he's going to get us.
Good. Well, welcome.
All righty. Bye bye.